In this video, we are going to take a look at the portal. The last of the big pieces has committed, that being Gianna Kneepkens has committed to UCLA. We are going to focus mainly in this video on the big three, that being UCLA, UConn, and South Carolina and their portal moves. We'll talk about a few of the others as well, but those will be the main ones, the big pieces they got and how they will fit into their team and who is set up best to win the championship in 25-26. Before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. Just a warning, content may get sporadic over the next few months as Back to Sports is doing a house renovation and is in the process of moving, so it might be an ugly 6 months for Back to Sports. We'll see what happens.
Prediction? Yes, prediction. Pain.
I'll do the best I can. Yeah, we'll just play it by ear. Okay, let's get into this now. Now we will start with the most recent news. Gianna Kneepkens is going to UCLA. This makes sense. I suspected that she might go there just because she's familiar with UCLA from her days in the Pac-12. It's a really good fit. It just location-wise, it's on the West Coast. They need shooting, and she can provide shooting. And it is a very important get for Corey Close and UCLA after they lost London Jones and a whole bunch of others, their freshman class, to go along with Barker and Jones. The biggest loss was obviously Jones because UCLA needs shooting to prevent teams from double and tripling Lauren Betts or to punish them for doing that. Now, if you take a look at Kneepkens' shot chart, it is just ridiculous. Around the arc, she shoots 43% from three, and in the corners, 55%. Yeah, she can shoot well. Plus, she's bigger than London Jones, so they won't have any issues on defense or that big defensive liability like they have at times when London Jones is on the court. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is Ledger Walker. So the year that she got injured, year 23-24, she only shot 23% from three. But the year prior to that, she actually shot 34% from three around the top of the arc. So the question is, has she had time while rehabbing her knee to really straighten out her shot, much like Olivia Miles was able to do? That would be interesting. If she comes out with a really strong shot, all three of those Jaquez with Kiki Rice, and they can all shoot over 30%, then UCLA is really set up quite well. They'll dump it into Betts if they double, triple her. She finds the open player, and they're looking to bury the three-pointer. It's pretty simple. Not to mention, despite the loss of Barker to Tennessee, they're still stacked inside as Dugliich is returning for another year. In addition, Tamia Gardner will be back, and they have Sienna Betts coming in. Gardner and Dugliich can also shoot from outside. So this team is still loaded, still has depth. And I didn't mention Lena Billick is coming in. She's a European wing that's 6'3", and she can shoot as well. So don't feel bad for UCLA and all their players leaving. I think their lineup actually looks better this year than it did last year, as Ledger Walker's an experienced point guard versus them last year having to run with Arnicello that was a freshman. In addition, the loss of Barker, I think less is more. Sienna Betts will give them more inside, and you can slowly give her playing time. And the fit with Gardner, Tamia Gardner with Dugliich, I think that potentially works better with Betts as they can put them up at the high post. And those two players continue to help with spacing. And that's what you need with Lauren Betts, because Lauren Betts can't shoot from outside. So everybody else on the court, it's more ideal if they can space. And that was sort of the problem last year with having Barker on the court when Betts was on the court. Now, the other big portal piece to go was Serah Williams, who has chosen to go to UConn. This just gives UConn more depth and insurance inside. Serah Williams, who was at Wisconsin last year, she is big and athletic. She's 6'4". Last season at Wisconsin, she averaged 19 points per game, 9.8 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and 2.3 blocks. And that's just more production than UConn got out of Gianna Alfie. Now, granted, Serah Williams played more minutes, 32 minutes a game, versus Alfie's 16 minutes a game, but El Alfie only got 5 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist per game, and zero point 0.6 of a block. So you will just get more impact at the center position, and you can just see the dominance that UConn will have in the front line as they'll be able to play Serah Williams along with Serah Strong, the two Serahs. That's going to be nasty for teams to face. And then they just have depth now, more depth inside than they did last year, as they still have El Alfie that came along and played well in the tournament. In addition, Ice Brady is still there. They're still optimistic. Ice Brady played better in the tournament. She played well versus UCLA, but I see Ice, the third one. I think she's really going to suffer by this transfer. I think she's really going to have to fight to get her playing time and really try to fix up her shot. That's her best chance to get on. If Ice Brady can shoot from outside, that gives them another dimension, because both Serah Williams and El Alfie, they struggle shooting outside the key. So Ice really needs to be able to stretch out her shot, get better in the mid-range and outside, and I think that's her pathway. Now, UConn might not be done in the portal as of yet, as Kayleigh Heckel from USC has paid them a visit. In addition, she has taken a look at Vanderbilt, Notre Dame, and Michigan State reportedly. So it's interesting to see that UConn is interested in her, as generally they don't go for underclassmen that much. They have done it, but that is generally not the way they go. And usually Gino's stance is, you didn't like it at your previous location, why are you going to like it at UConn? Now, that is interesting. There are rumors on the message board, and take it for what it's worth, because it might not be worth anything at all. But some are saying the mass exodus at USC is related to Lindsey Gottlieb, and that there were different sets of rules for different players. So some players had to show up on time. Other players were able to get away with not being on time, and it was a bit of a cultural issue. Nobody has gone on the record to verify that, any reporters or anything else. So it's a message board talk. So take it with a grain of salt. But could that be the issue, that Heckel, it wasn't a playing time issue for Heckel, that she's just interested in going into a program that she feels is better run? Will soon to be determined. If she goes to UConn, then it appears that might be the case, because she might not get any more minutes at UConn than she got at USC, because it's the same dynamic. At USC, it was a battle between her and Samuels. Samuels had better defense versus she had better offense, and it could be much the same at UConn with KK Arnold, who did really well on defense if you take a look at her on-off numbers versus her offensive numbers. And this is another insurance policy for UConn. In case KK Arnold struggles with her shot, then they have Heckel up their sleeve and have something to help them give offense, and it's a bit of a mixed match scenario. Now, overall in the portal, I would say UConn is the big winner thus far, even if they get Heckel or not, because they got the one piece they needed, which is potentially more depth in case El Alfie doesn't develop. In addition, Kneepkens going to UCLA, I think that's good for UConn that she did not go to South Carolina, because South Carolina would have been devastating if they would have gotten Kneepkens and Tessa Johnson. That just would have given them all sorts of puzzle pieces to mix and match. Obviously, South Carolina is going to be really, really good with Okot at center, but I still think it really is going to depend on Raven Johnson and how her shot develops. They need more shooting. That's my big concern for South Carolina, because Tahina Paopao gave them a special element, and I think they will miss that. And it really is dependent on Raven Johnson becoming a more consistent outside shooter. Now, ESPN, Charlie Cream, he has rated Tennessee with the best portal moves, or the best acquisitions, if you like. And obviously, they did get Barker in addition to Wolfenbarger, which are great additions, but they have so many pieces they're bringing together. I want to see how it looks. I want to take a while to analyze Tennessee and all their different parts, because it's going to be a mix and mash, and trying to put it together. It could be spectacular, and they could be devastating at the same time. it could be a mess. I keep on saying it, but I'm really interested to see what Tennessee looks like. With Texas, the loss of Kneepkens, not getting Kneepkens hurt them as well. I just think it's going to be more of the same with Texas. They got a few bigs in Cunningham, but I don't see. I see the same old Texas. They're going to struggle a bit on offense. Teams will really go after Booker, and it's not much has changed. LSU, they brought in a lot of parts. Like Full Wiley's a good get, but how's that going to work with Caitlin Gilbert? And then you mix and match that. They still just look a little bit small to me. Caval's obviously an upgrade over Del Rosario, but do they have enough size inside? And is this a really Kim Mulkey type of team? Because it looks like a lot of little guards and forwards, and she usually likes to dominate with big. So I'm curious to see how it shapes out with LSU, and the whole Full Wiley going there dynamic will be interesting to watch. Now I'll leave you with this. So after all the portal moves and recruiting classes coming in and where teams left off and players returning, I still have UConn number one. I think they look like the best team on paper thus far. If everybody stays healthy, then I'd have a really close 1 and 2 with South Carolina, then UCLA. And then from there, probably Texas and maybe LSU. I'd have to look at that longer, but that's where I see it currently shaping out. But happy for your thoughts, your poison. All's welcome. Yes, I'm a UConn homer. I'm sure I'll get that. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Have a great night.